You didn't see the email?
I saw a lot of emails.
So here, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
saw you up on
take it.
Arnick Avenue. about
I
a
have
year
them
and a
all
half
except
ago,
number,
And encouraged you and your
4.
campaign and everything else. I had no idea that it would lead me to be seated at. the head of the- That's my reward.
Yeah, I ended up, it's just gonna be my.
I have to take the culprit.
I got the voter, I don't have the money.
All right, pushing the chair. You get complaints about my dog swimming in the harbor without.
Oh, that was your dog?
Yeah.
That on the agenda. Yep. I think it is.
Knock on wood.
All right.
It was.
I don't know if anybody wants to pass these around.
And one of the police officers drove by looking like.
Yeah.
Each set, it's a set.
I didn't make a, no, I didn't make sense. I did it at work. I didn't,
Oh, to take one of each.
Yeah.
Or Barry?
that capability today.
Enjoyed it. Is Dan or Jerry?
Well, I don't know. if you
I
enjoyed
think
it,
Dan
but
is coming, Jerry's sick, so,
Uh,
Here, this is the one. I'm sorry.
Dan.
North
coming.
North Barry. I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
If they don't show up, is it against the law?
Yeah.
So then, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. What do you think? We can't break the law, so we're gonna.
Thank you.
And this was, I had something.
What's that street where the families always come in about
Was
once
this
every
redone?
other month? Up here.
Union app.
Union. Ave.
No, it wasn't
You know,
redone. It was on the agenda.
I
So we
just
just
want to
printed
report
it out
that
because he had it on old business on the agenda.
we're not on live, are we?
Yes, we're.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just printed
I
out.
got run over by a Mercedes who
I
wouldn't slow
Jerry
down
took it
for,
away. I guess that's what we're gonna
pedestrians.
talk about. I didn't,
and
Got
I
it.
already wrote the agenda.
Got
This
it.
is Patty Tripletti's email.
Who doesn't have minutes?
Follow up.
Raise hand, raise your hand, you know the minutes. There we go.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's one minute. That's one. There we go. Ms. Davis, you have a copy.
I do have a
So I
copy, thank
just
you.
tell you to stop.
There we go.
No, she had just had that email
Show me yours.
and I
I
printed it
suggest
out.
that's.
No, I'm on the line. So.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good because that's what she questioned.
And,
Who from us never went.
Yeah.
Work session.
Sorry.
So why don't we?
Right?
You can bring it up.
Those two, it's not added to the place.
What's this week committee does?
They're gonna hassle us about all this paper.
Okay.
Oh.
We are live. There's a hot mic on.
Thank you.
And I just want to get us started because we're starting a little bit late. I don't think we have anybody in the waiting room. So Tuesday, April 11th, traffic commission meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to call this meeting to order.
I'll second that.
Okay, super. All in favor? Open this meeting? Aye.
I,
Excellent. All right.
7:45 PM.
11:45 PM, right? Who is taking the next?
I.
Where's your?
I came up too much.
I think it may be my.
I think it is.
Rob, I think we've gone around. Yeah, I don't know what I want to do next. Sure, you're. I don't want to put you on the spot. But I will. You're so involved. Is there, I don't want to say permanent, but do you want to be more focused on minutes, each of these meetings, and you're highly involved in all this stuff with that?
As I've mentioned many times before, I have plenty of time. I don't work. I don't have a family. I don't want to touch. I don't want to,
How does the rest of the?
unless somebody else wants to do it.
I'm happy to back you up whenever you need backup,
Okay.
but if you want to be the lead minutes or. And
Wait a minute,
if
let
he
me-
wants
Do I
a
be a
family
Minuteman?
or he wants.
Oh,
pets,
as opposed
So
to,
opposed to rotating.
I'm not sure what you're saying. You want
Yes.
me to be the official minutes taker?
The
I
secretary.
thought you were saying I don't have to do the minutes. I misunderstood.
No, you agreed to do it for, in perpetuity.
Sam.
While you're getting it backwards, Rob, congratulations on your new post.
You do it well, Robert.
No, I
Really
wanted,
do.
I wanted to put it out there. I think you just have a lot, you know what's going on. And if you'd be open to that, we could try, can we
If
try
if
it?
everyone is okay, we can try it and. if
Yeah.
it works
It's just a
out,
minute
if not-
taker?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I mean,
am in support of it because he knows so much from this
right,
table that he's developed.
That's true. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And just to kind of put this into context, in the past, this board and other boards have been assigned a minute taker by the village.
That's correct.
And I think one of the reasons why they do that is because it is laborious. for-
And that person was paid. to do
That
it.
person was paid. And so now, at least if we have some continuity, because I mean, one of the struggles, when I've done it, when everybody's done it, it's trying to figure out the format. And once you have a format, you could probably do it a little bit easier, but then we don't do it again for another 10 months. And then you gotta kind of like relearn the format. So I think continuity maybe is not a bad thing.
Well,
Any
also,
opposition?
how do we present the minutes? The last minutes are so much different than the previous. So I don't know, Robert wants to make them this brief or go into detail,
So
so.
let's everybody figure out.
I mean, it's hard to-
So let's talk about two things. So one, there's the minutes. If we're going to continue with the spreadsheet can contain a lot more information than the minutes. The minutes can be shorter and
Min-
briefer.
Minutes only officially have to be your action items.
Everyone okay with that?
Right, so I'm confused. So we want to make, you want Robert to take the minutes going forward.
Yes.
Okay, well, this,
Is there any opposition to that?
So the minutes are going to be separate from the spreadsheet. The monthly minutes.
Well, I think if we can maybe save that for the discussion when we get to the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Can we say that for the discussion?
And one,
Okay,
and one.
It has to be separate.
I'll
Dan,
second
if he comes.
Rob being the minute taker.
okay, all in favor of Mr. Robert Starr?
Is there a pension? You know, I didn't-
This is. No.
No, you can kind of-
That's okay, right? All right, let's jump to this,
And I have a. Shoot.
yes, sir.
Okay, so everyone is going to, if you make copies of this, everybody? Maybe very everyone.
I think I made copies in the file.
Okay. So I'd like, so this is the calculated priority old business. So this is what I did. So I went through the whole spreadsheet and looked at particularly the old business and all of this stuff and realized a lot of the old business, we call old business, were stuff that nobody had actually gone back to that site to see if something that was scheduled was done or fixed or repaired. So I went back to a lot of these places and I discovered that a lot of these things that we have as currently old business can be closed.
That's great news.
Shouldn't
So-
it be an agenda item now? I mean, so we can get finished like relatively.
So we can figure it out, but I just want to explain where we are in terms of the old business stuff.
Yeah,
So this is a updated spreadsheet as of this afternoon. I literally went to one place this afternoon. And the items that are in bold are things that happened from last meeting to today. So if you just focus on the items in bold, there are about 50 of them. And you can compare them to the old business agenda. And I think you will find, if you read what I updated on here, you may find, you may find that we can eliminate some of these old business items. But that's something for everybody to determine. Somebody may think, oh, we still need to do this, that, or the other. But I'm pretty confident that a lot of these old
Great.
business we can close.
okay, so, all right, I'll have a proposal of sorts that for discussion in the old business section about how we're using the spreadsheet and rankings and with the understanding that we would be somehow integrating these into the minutes this go around to memorialize all the hard work that everybody's done on this mission and even the folks before us. And as Rob pointed out, there's things that were in that spreadsheet, even in the prioritized spreadsheet that have actually been done. They've been accomplished.
Yes.
And so I think it'd be really important to reflect back to the community that in fact, these things have been accomplished. So they need to be reflected in the minutes for that purpose. All right, so let's jump into new business, but because we have, let me rephrase that. If we can, since we have our neighbor from 412 North Berry here, maybe we can not occupy his entire evening.
Good job.
Thank you.
So if you can just, remind us of your name, Justin, and what the issue is, and we can give you about 3 minutes to go over this and state your request. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for hearing me out. So I live at 412 North Barry, Justin Gonlag. We moved to the community about 3 years ago. Getting out of our driveway is quite dangerous. On North Barry, you know, even if cars don't go that fast, it's tricky to see because two cars typically try squish and park on the Hellstead side. So cars will come down and we're trying to reverse out. So we don't even reverse out anymore. We always pull our car backwards. But even then, we've had a lot of close calls. Like I just had one now where a Honda Civic almost hit me coming out. So last year I had requested, you know, for the committee to look at potentially putting in a mirror. And I think at that point, the commission had considered it and thought about it, but it was a problem for the firemen in terms of the vehicles coming by. So what I did is I looked back at some of the old minutes and I noticed from people that have had previous concerns, especially on July 12th last year for 235 South Barry, they removed a parking spot for a similar type of concern. So my request is to do something similar so that we can see better when coming out of our driveway.
Would you like that on the north? When you're coming out the driveway to your left?
Yes, to the Hellstead side, yeah.
Yeah, just so we should, if we do anything, we should make sure that,
Is it in the west?
yeah.
West.
So-
No, it goes north to south.
Oh, North Berry South.
Yeah. So it's north of his house.
That way we'll give more clearance to see traffic coming out.
Yeah, no, I saw the spot.
So I've seen him try to back into that driveway, and if somebody doesn't give him space to get back in, they're pretty much stuck there. They gotta go all the way back around because they can't back into the driveway, and they live near the school. So the traffic does back up there during that time, and he does, I've seen him have quite the time going as I drove by, it was.
And what, how do I phrase this elegantly? Like what percentage of parking spots are taken up like every night on that stretch of North Berry?
It's seasonal, like right now, because of all the landscaping, like there are a lot of cars. And that's a problem because those bigger vans make it even worse to see. I would say in the winter, it kind of dies down again. And then in the height of the summer, it's probably at about, 60% occupancy rates. But
Resident
now it's
residents
about,
parking?
So would you say that it's mostly during the day or it's overnight that most of the cars are there?
I would say it's about 50-50. There are residents, like there are people that don't own their properties, like there are multi-families across from us, and they've got, high school kids with cars, and they line the streets a little bit as well.
Is there a group home across the street of some sort?
Yes, it is.
Close by, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, yeah, it's in the 400 line.
Yeah, so it's just a little to the right of that blue house is mine.
Which one? The blue. It's like
And
all out there.
where the coast is now is
Right
with
here?
the 2 parking spots, yeah.
So is it legitimately 2 parking spots or the cars parked exactly up to you, the driveway?
They
and to the
they
other?
have to squish and they park right up, but not like I think it's legal. I don't know what the legal limit is, but they really squish when they
So
put 2 cars.
This is an epidemic I see throughout neighborhoods, throughout the village of Mamaroneck. Removing spots because I call over parking. How do we find out what the measurement is there and if that is a legitimate 2-space section or a 1-space section? Because if it's a 1-space parking area, they could put parking lines there if it's spaced for a 1 vehicle car. I think it's 90 feet of parking spot. Am I wrong or right?
I
And
don't
if
want
it's-
to.
if it's- well, maybe not.
Cars are only like 18 feet long, so.
But I
yeah.
know that they give you a certain amount of parking, like that stands extra for me to say, but
Is there like a line right where that car is parked? There's a line before that driveway to say like,
There's no line.
no, there's no
Yeah.
line,
This is a residential area where there's no lights.
you know, which would be
They don't
beneficial.
like to paint lines. That's what they're like.
Because
Yeah.
you have to maintain it.
But in situations where it's legitimately a space where you could only fit two vehicles, that would be beneficial to paint lines there, because with lines, you can enforce the parking or the over parking or parking over the line, or you could legitimately see by measuring if one vehicle only belongs there or two. Giving the family the ability to pull out of their driveway, because traffic has changed. Parking
And
has
I'm
changed.
sure it's not only a problem for you with your driveway, it's probably everybody's driveway.
Yeah, like you could see here, my neighbor on my left, Mark, there's only space for one. So it gives him leeway on either
Mhm.
side. And then Jason, who's a little bit further, he's got enough space. It's like not enough space for three, just for two. So it gives. I haven't noticed anyone that's had as tight a problem as I do, where it's like literally the car is gonna park
Mhm.
like on your bump on the way out.
so where that Subaru is, you thinking like they'll omit that spot? Not that car, the one above it.
I think
Yeah, just
wherever the committee thinks is
No,
better, it's.
No, with the
That-
Subaru.
Yeah, that's where the Subaru, that's
No, the other side.
Well,
Yeah.
or,
Where there's
Right,
no
but
car,
cars
there's
out
no
right there.
car there now.
Yeah.
is where
if,
it's over.
or
And
if lines are
Say before.
painted and the line is far enough back, would that help?
I don't know if these landscaping trucks will abide to that.
Are the
Because when two
landscaping
of
trucks
them,
allowed to park there?
During the day,
Well, they're.
And when
when
I-
they're
they're
working
not.
between the hours.
Oh,
of
when
maintenance.
they're.
Also,
He's not talking about overnight.
Construction.
Okay.
When they're working.
yeah,
there's a house construction to the south of that, right?
Mhm.
yeah, but they never bother us. This is more just, you know, smaller trucks that are parking there to do the lawn or, you know.
All right. So any thoughts on what we want to do with this?
I mean. I have two thoughts. Obviously, you should have a safe way to get in and out of your driveway. The issue is that if there are several houses along North Berry that are experiencing the same issue, how do we address them fairly?
Yeah, I mean, someone could survey it. I don't think there is. I think this person at 235 South Berry
Mhm.
got similar approval, so. You know, I'd be surprised if they're a lot like me. I would say
Yeah,
very few
South Berry has a
percentage.
very different parking.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't run up on South Berry. I think there's parking on maybe even on both sides of the street down there.
yeah. Like I said, I would be very surprised if others have this type of like.
Yeah.
Space problem.
And I ask, and this isn't related to you, but one of the issues on the agenda today is when we restored parking on a street, but neighbors didn't know what's gonna happen, and now they're coming back and saying, why is someone parked there? So just want to make sure that we don't create unintended consequences.
Sorry, could you say that? part?
Oh, one of the agenda items today is about a situation where someone on a street asked to restore parking, and we did, and then other neighbors were like, why are people parking on the street? We can't see anything. So,
Yeah,
with parking, if you do one thing, someone else is going to maybe be negatively impacted.
yeah, I mean, to me, it's a safety thing.
Mhm.
If, you know, the teenager that sometimes parks there across the road has to park a little bit further down, he would be negatively impacted. It's
Mhm.
like going, I'm open to any safe way of getting out my driveway.
Yeah.
Last year I brought the mirror, this year I
Yeah.
brought what they've done in the, like, any other suggestions, you know, I just need to have a safe way to get.
Yeah, and I wish Dan was here too to weigh in on this. I mean, I think, painting out some of the curb is not the worst case in the world. I know that, worst idea in the world. I know he's had some reasons for it, but just to maybe paint out some of the curb to give some breathing room. And, do you know, does anyone recall why we can't do the yellowing out of the curb or highlighting the curb right there to say like there's no parking from here to there, like yellowing it?
But
That's
if
only on
you
active driveways or commercial driveways or something?
You have to check the traffic code. It's that MTCU municipal traffic code. It's when I asked you about the Raleigh Road thing with the Norwood at Crown Court. I shot up the idea of throwing up a sign, and Dan, you just can't throw up a sign, Andy. It has to go through that MTCU coding system.
Yeah, it had, we went through this on the co-op over on Boston Post Road when we were talking about,
The garage,
yeah, the garage.
but that was not just one person getting out, it was everyone who used that garage in that building, so it was multiple people that were then it can benefit. Can I ask everyone to go to page 20? The third from the bottom, on Marinich Avenue, 1511. So this goes back last year, when Richard and David weren't here. This goes back to October of 2022. We had a similar case where somebody who lives up by the Heights and had the same problem. They had problems
Right.
getting out of their garage, out of their driveway. We haven't gone back to that in 6 months. So before we accommodate Mr. Godlike, I think we need to have a policy in place, how we're going to deal with. And I think we also need to go back and decide what we're going to do here. If
Mhm.
we're going to remove a parking space for Mr. Godlike, why are we doing it for this lady?
What was the suggestion back then for that?
Oh, so their problem was they.
No, I see the problem. What was the suggestion possibly
Well,
by
if you-
Dan or the engineer?
Yeah.
We didn't have an engineer.
Yeah, there was one of those
If
things
you
where.
read what it says, it's an ongoing discussion of whether to remove parking spaces.
So the reason why I see that it does say that there's an ongoing discussion. I didn't know if it was an ongoing discussion among the traffic committee or was it an ongoing discussion with Dan or whomever? So,
We never got any kind
Any
of
leeway, okay.
recommendation from anybody.
Yeah, I don't think we took a vote on it. I think it was like one of these things kind of where we are, like, Mr. Godlike, we don't know what we can do in this particular case because we didn't know what to do last October in this case, and we don't really have clarity as to, I mean, I think David put it well, that when we remove one spot, it does have sort of a cascading effect. There are unintended consequences, and it becomes this thing where what's the criteria to remove a spot?
So could I ask why on July 12th, 235 South Berry was granted and what the
Yeah, that's a good
policy
question.
was
Can I
for that?
just jump in? one
That's a very
sec?
good question.
Just before we start going back and forth, and how can we, because everything, it has its own unique situation, but really there's a huge parking and traffic situation in the village. But before we figure out how we're gonna approach this, can somebody go out there and measure the
I
space?
was gonna say, that's your key tool is right and
And
left
if
of the
we measure,
driveway.
if we measure the space and you can fit 2 cars without being curb to curb and ruining your line of sight, then possibly without having to remove spots, you can paint complete lines in that area, allowing 2 cars to park safely and giving your apron of your driveway a more open effect where you're able to pull in and out freely. Let's try to find somebody to go out and measure so we can actually see what the issue is. If it's 2 spots that are corner to corner, then maybe it needs to come back to the traffic commission where we would have to decide to pull a spot away safely and only allow 1 car to park there because it is encroaching on your space. So before we go back and forth, or how come we moved an item, how come we didn't, let's try to solve it. and
Laura, I
figure out
agree
the
with you
measurement.
with the lines, and that's what I asked to be done at this 1511, and Dan said no. Because I think it's the same problem, that the cars are parking too close to their driveway,
Mhm.
Right,
and it's
But we're
impossible to
close-
see backing out of Mamaroneck Avenue, that's 2 lanes of traffic.
Moving
correct.
fast.
Right.
But we're close, we're on Barry Avenue, pretty close to a school. We have a resident that is,
Yes,
is
no, I
unsafe.
agree,
Right, no,
but then
no, we're
maybe we
unsafe.
suggested also for 1511.
Right, and then we would be able to circle back and find the same issue. If maybe there's 5 homes in our spreadsheet that fit that criteria, then we know how to work with it. Now we have a process.
Okay,
So you're talking about 2 white lines for each spot, right?
Well, it would be 3 white lines if it's
Well,
2
two-
spots. but you would pull it in off the curb.
Well, you need space in between other white lines, you know.
Well,
spot-
if you go down, if
spot.
you go down.
That's what I'm picturing, two white
But
lines.
the
space.
actual parking spot, and Dan isn't here to quote this, but I know that an actual parking spot is a certain footage. I don't know what that footage is. That's Dan's criteria.
It's expertise.
Once they measure that area, they would be able to tell you how many spots can fit there. Is it one legal spot or two
Okay.
legal spots?
But look
So
at that,
is
if you look at that
Yeah.
picture, you get the car, the sedan, whatever the car back there is not parked as far back as it could be. So there's the problem where someone parks, he says 5 feet there, someone parks in front of, blocks your driveway.
Mhm.
So that, like that's.
So-
So that's
In
why
this case,
they
Exactly.
should park.
That's a space hog right there.
So-
But that's how you'd want it to
Right.
be, because that car needs to get out of their driveway and this gentleman's car needs to get out of their driveway, so they have to figure out what the safest avenue is. Because, of course, the streets were created before we had cars to the magnitude that we have them, in traffic before we had them.
Richard?
I think this gentleman's got a problem that's, inherent danger, but there's other aspects of it. There's a crosswalk just to the south. To the other direction,
Other south.
the other side.
I'm not as good, I'm not Dan,
There's a-
I'm not
there's a-
Dan.
And it's their little side.
And it's not time.
And a stop
I love
sign.
that stuff.
And
I know.
drivers are going past, if his driveway is not completely visible because there's two cars legally parked in front of his house. And a car going towards that crosswalk
Mhm.
is distracted as they approach the crosswalk and they're slowing to go safely across the crosswalk.
It's far
The-
from the crosswalk.
It's
though.
far, it's.
I thought it was like 3 houses.
No,
something like that, wasn't it?
It's over 100 feet.
Over
It's
half a
like-
block.
Yeah, no, that's Brook Street.
Okay, so is there a motion for us to consider measuring this out? Anyone?
And are we measuring out all as well as the previous location too? Or has that already been done?
Can I ask a question?
The-
So this
the-
measuring, is that to put a line where somebody can't park beyond?
It's just to measure.
It's just to measure to see exactly how many,
feet
how many
you deal
cars,
with.
how many cars can safely park there.
Once
Like they-
once you know the foot measurement, then you can apply the village code law and parking. Dan would be able to reiterate the correct amount of feet, and then you'll know exactly the feet you've measured, the feet that the village of Mamaroneck recognizes as a single. parking
And
area.
I would
I'm
move-
asking if you should do both that and the 15.
Might as well do. two birds
I
with
would
one stone.
move that we adjourn his issue to the next meeting. And during the interim, measure it, and that person comes back to the committee in advance and provides us with something that we can work with.
And can we just request DPW to go measure for us? Or I'm happy to go there
I mean-
for measuring tape too.
Yeah, I mean, is there any other aspect of it that needs to be checked?
No, I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, then you have the material, you have the information, and we can have a better conversation and.
Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, we're not talking about parking space removal.
Not yet.
We're about
Just-
clar-
yeah.
clarifying parking spaces. So let's do that. And you want to go out and you have a tape measure?
I would take measure.
Subcommittee work.
Yeah.
I would also just send an email to the DPW,
So do we need
Yeah,
to make a
because he's
motion?
really good and he'll get it done.
And we'll do it quickly.
And they
Get out
know,
there.
I'm not that you don't know how to measure, but they know what it's supposed to be,
All right, so I don't think we don't need a motion on this. then.
Okay.
And let's,
What
I
are you doing
withdraw my
about
motion.
1511?
I think.
well, I think let's see if we can figure out what the measurements are and what the guidelines are, and if that's a DPW question, right?
Was for the uniform code, right? And Dan has.
But
That's what Dan will apply.
Visibility and increased speed on Mamaroneck
Mhm.
Avenue than on North Barry at that location. That was their problem.
The only other
Increased speed
problem,
And like, they're coming up, the driveway was a downhill or coming up.
Yeah.
It was difficult.
the only other problem is that this is a county road and I don't know if the village needs to get approval from the county to just paint a line
I'm Barry.
on Mamaroneck Avenue.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
the-
I think Barry might be a little bit different. And I think, all right, so David, you're gonna measure. We'll shoot a message to
I'm
DPW.
happy to measure.
And the DPW message is, I guess I missed that part. I missed it.
Are we asking them, I mean,
To verify
Then you have.
Yeah,
verify
verify my measurement.
Double check
There's
the
enough space for 1 or 2 cars. to
Well,
park
in North
there, what the
America,
measurements are.
the average parking space is 18 feet long. So if it's 18 times 2 and it approaches his driveway, then it's something to revisit.
Okay, so I will email Dan this request
Did you say
and,
the average parking, what about if there's 2 we can navigate?
and then,
It depends on the size of the SUV.
But I
Two
think that you go
SUVs.
by the, an average.
all right.
I think also, it's not about the size of the parking space, it's dangerous.
Right.
I agree with the, I 100% agree with the line of sight. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to, so Leilani can present it in a work session. She could say, we have 2 spaces that are legal, but it does not work for the resident.
And we want to be fair to everyone here, and I think you make a good point that there was another action taken on your block.
You're right.
But we also can point to where there was other requests made and action wasn't taken, so, you know, there are gonna be some inconsistencies with composition of board and such, you know, the circumstances of this, but I think that you are rightly and deservedly concerned about this. You pull out, every time I see you or hear from you, you got another close call.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have so many close calls just getting in and out of your driveway. So if we can come up with something that seems fair and balanced, isn't gonna cause unintended consequences and maybe lead to a Pareto improvement, then let's do that. But I think we need a little bit more information. And you have a volunteer that's gonna go
Yeah.
measure. I'm gonna let Dan know and figure out what we're gonna do. And, you know, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you guys.
Thank
considering
you.
this. Thank you.
All right, so, going on to
Good
new
night.
business.
Good night.
This is an interesting one, Jefferson Avenue cul-de-sac parking. So this is a situation where parking was removed. I do not know.
Anybody go to the cul-de-sac? Do you want to pull that? Aside from that,
I know the cul-de-sac.
North Barry, Middle Firehouse.
I
Make
know
a
it.
right,
We're gonna have to visit it.
straight down to the dead end until you can't go up past Harold, past Wood, Lorena.
Jensen's a tight turn.
Right, Jeff, my family.
Don't know.
Okay, so, one of the things that we wanted all to see it, and I know some of us didn't have time to see it, but Robert, can you just kind of clue us in as to what's going on there, and so we can get a sense of what action we might need to take?
So I was there last month and looked at it and I spoke to residents and some residents said, Officer LaRocca, are you familiar with that?
I know what you're talking about, yes.
So,
The
so this, so,
900 block of Jefferson Avenue.
right, so the last thing I heard, because I went there a few days ago, someone said that there's a sign that says they have to park along the curb.
Okay.
What they had been doing for 20 years is parking parallel.
Okay,
And what they said is that a few months ago, the village came by and said, you can't do that anymore because the fire trucks can't make that turn. If that's the case, if that's why they did that, then there's nothing we can do.
okay, let me check with the fire chief on that, to be fair, because this is the first I'm hearing of it. And it's exactly what I'm supposed to do, is bring it back. So let me bring it back to them. If somebody had made comment in reference to the cars parking nose in like that, would affect the fire truck
So,
from making
so
a turn.
it, so that
Yeah.
was, so the other thing is the resident who's there said she thought that the fire trucks, it's a big area that the truck could turn. So if you can come
Okay.
back and then
Yes.
we can decide whether
Yes.
there's anything more we need to
Okay.
talk about.
No problem. I'm more than
Or
happy.
maybe they can't turn either way.
If you look at this, it looks like there's
Like, you need to see the whole,
But you need to
the whole.
see the-
side.
Yeah, it's half the cul-de-sac.
They painted it.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the whole thing.
Only because I know somebody who lives there. They
And
painted.
they got a can of paint.
So see the way they're hold on. See the way they're parking?
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Look
And
at that.
they were able to get 10 cars,
Okay,
but once, and there's a sign there that says you can't do that. And for 20 years they did that. Let me just finish.
Well, that's
So,
enforcement.
so when they park, when they change that, so you have to park along the suburb, now they only can fit 4 cars.
like top
And
parking
parking
parallel
here
to
is
curb.
at a minimal on that street. and that's their problem.
Does she have any idea or he have any idea who from the fire department may have said that?
No.
Okay, let me just look into it to make sure it's bona fide.
All right. It wasn't from the fire department. It was from the, I guess, maybe the police department who enforced the original sign, which said you can't park parallel, you have to park.
Well,
So I don't know that they actually heard from the fire department. It's,
Okay.
is there any residential street that you can park like that?
No,
It doesn't look kosher to me.
probably not, but it's something they were doing for 20 years. And that's-
I'm not sure there's any law against it.
Robert, when you were out there, do you remember what the sign, the posted sign said currently? That's what
Yeah.
Well, those laws are making your
Sign,
mind, but there's
So on the other side of the, sign on that side.
Yeah,
And all they said was they're enforcing what the sign said,
Okay,
and anyone who's parked like that, we're getting tickets.
okay, I'll
That's
check
what
with the
they
fire
did.
department.
That'd be great.
Yep.
So.
this is the same issue that's happening on Leicester.
FD. All right.
you're gonna.
But Lester doesn't have a,
Can,
In terms of the dead end,
Mhm.
but Lester doesn't really have a cul-de-sac. It's just-
No, that's a squared off.
Just a
dead end.
straight dead
It's a
end.
Squared off.
And
dead
they're-
end.
it's not as wide as
In
this.
tandem, like 4 cars and then a set of 4 cars. And then they're rotating.
all right, so we've been asked to vote on a speed limit at Harbor Island.
So currently, there is no village code that allows the police department to enforce a speed limit down there. So
In the parking area?
in the parking lot at the harbor,
Really?
yeah,
You mean the whole driveway by the tennis courts?
Nowhere.
Anywhere around the circle?
so, the traffic commission would have to make a recommendation to add a speed limit, and you guys choose a speed limit. To,
Okay, I mean, I think we.
so then it
use
can be added to the
speed
village
limit.
code.
That's a lot, there's a lot of activity over there. A lot of kids.
It's people going to the tennis lessons at 9 o'clock.
It's
11
been a
o'clock,
big problem,
And cutting across
yeah.
the open parking spaces. That's my perception as the dog walker.
Well, it's like $1.20 an hour over there, so, I understand that people are in a rush to get to their lesson. So, okay, so, any thoughts on what a reasonable speed, what's a reasonable speed limit?
10 or 15?
I mean, I would say even 5 or 10, because even when it's 5, you go 10, and when it's 10, you're going 15, you know, like, so, I don't know.
Five.
Well, it's hard to
I've
get,
had-
it's hard to
I
get
have-
your car down.
But-
Might be able to 5 miles an hour.
10 is really
Uh,
slow.
20
I wouldn't
feels
go
fine.
any,
Five.
anymore, I wouldn't go past 10.
I wouldn't go
I,
past
I
10.
wouldn't either, because people are gonna go over it
I don't
anyway.
even know what that feels like.
Yeah, but I mean, I am accustomed to going to the harbor personally and driving no more than 10 miles an hour. And I have a heavy foot, but I have always cognizant because
Especially
it's
if
packed with,
there's no
you know, in the heat of a
fences, there's
summer,
always
No
kids
fences,
around.
there's balls going,
Yeah.
I can't give opinions.
I mean,
I really don't know what 10 miles
And
an
the
hour
playground.
is like.
I don't know if there's other
You can run
parks
fast.
that, like, not, the village doesn't, but I don't know, like, our
Glen
neighboring
Island
towns.
might be something to
I
reference.
just tried to work it out. I think it's 15.
I think it's fine.
Well, let's compromise and say 10.
Let's
Where-
compromise.
So, so can we make a recommendation on this?
What is the
And
police officer recommend?
I have to bring that back to the chief.
Maybe
Good job,
recommend-
answer, good answer.
I mean, my sense is that
Well,
anything,
liaisons.
What I can recommend is maybe I'll talk to Lieutenant Gata, maybe move the speed trailer down there. And we can get an idea of kind of what is going on down there.
Well, the story is there's no speed limit sign at all, so we're gonna.
Right,
need
so they
one.
don't,
I
they're,
don't know what the speed
I mean,
sense is gonna
for
do.
me, that
Well,
slows
what
me
your
down.
perception is one thing, and what
Right.
cars are actually doing is another thing. So you may go down there and go, well,
Maybe they're only going
Right.
10, you're saying.
yes.
Maybe that's the
So
problem. I
maybe
see.
before you start setting something, maybe see what's going on down there.
yeah, and my perspective is that signing anything at within 10 or 15 is a really big deterrent to going.
And is that from
Right.
Boston Post Road when you enter?
I think
Is that-
it'd be,
Yeah, when you
From
make
there-
that right,
And
Yeah.
all the way through the park?
yeah.
right, you can drive the other side of the soccer fields, I
Mhm.
mean.
So
if you
that's
have-
a
to me, it's
big
more-
stop sign at the
So
booth.
if you had a
Maybe
big
besides it for-
spot to put a trailer down there, where would it be? So I can kind of bring it back.
I guess by the large parking area by the tennis courts, so. when
So
make
you,
that
so you
right-
want it on the path going along the fields?
I think so, Tina.
Yeah,
You're going down,
It-
you pick
the-
up first.
the-
straight away.
The only thing I'm
concerned.
concerned about is
Dead
that
middle.
this can't be on this list for 10 months. Because it's been a big problem for
Mhm.
Jason, who asked me to do this. I just
Yeah, and
texted
it's
him.
warming up. I'm
mean-
willing to make entertain a motion
He-
to move
So
forward
Jason
and have
just
the
said he thinks that
the board of
15 would be
trustees sort
reasonable.
out what the actual limit is, but I think it is there should be, it's a
He said
request. We
that.
should have a speed limit.
Yeah.
We can't determine what that speed limit is, but we're asking that the commission can
Yes.
say that we agree that we are recommending to the board of trustees that we want a speed limit there.
Right.
So if you
Yeah.
think about it, when you approach and you have to approach the gate, you're doing no more than 10 miles an hour at that point. Because you're slowing up to speak to the girl or the gentleman who is checking your pass to come into the harbor during season, right? So you're.
Well, you
slow-
should be going slower than that. because
Right.
you're gonna be
Well,
stopping.
well, you're coming off of this,
Right.
coming across the avenue, and I'm thinking you're starting to slow down because you have no choice, because you have a gate
Right.
in front of you.
Mm.
Why not continue that momentum at 10 miles an hour through the harbor?
But I think Ryan's right. I think that if you guys just make a motion to add a speed limit to the village code, the speed limit would be set by the chief and the board of trustees,
Mhm.
that would move it along.
Okay.
What do you think, Delani? Is that fair? I mean, we all agree that there should be a speed limit. I mean, what's being requested of us.
If it's being requested by two different departments,
And
then,
then-
I mean, not departments, but
Well,
committees.
why don't
And
we?
it was actually from Jason.
That's why I said two,
So, yeah.
well, yeah, he's a department.
Yeah, Robert?
Why don't we recommend a maximum of 15, so we kind of leave it open if the board of
Mhm.
trustees wants to reduce it? I
I'm
think,
fine with
I
that.
recommend between 10 and 15 miles an hour.
I think you
Or even
can
10 and
safely
20.
say 10 to 15, isn't that could be fair, right?
They're gonna go.
Well, it's gotta be
Along with
one or the
whatever the
other.
police department does.
Well, Jason just said 15 to 20, but he
That's
said that
reasonable.
he would be more comfortable asking the police department what they think, because he's not an expert on
Right,
this.
but for today, for the motion, we can just say between 10 and 20 miles an hour.
Maybe say,
And get
15.
something
Right.
down.
Not too many.
So I mean,
think
20, I
20
think,
would be best.
yeah.
Again, we still have to,
Okay,
we
you
still
get-
have
you
to
get
refer
that
back to the police department regardless. So even
I
if
think
we
we
say
can-
20, if y'all say 20 and the police department says 15, you gotta kind of go with that.
Exactly. So
Right,
let's not,
but there's
let's make a
no-
recommendation.
Don't make it harder than what it needs to be.
Yeah, don't,
So you think
Maximum
that- you think
15.
that we should do a max of 15? Is that what
You
you're
could do
saying?
a gauge,
Battle research.
refer back to the
Alright,
police
so that's-
department,
that's-
whatever they suggest, then that's what we
10
do.
to 15?
Good job.
That's why. I think-
Yeah.
All right, is there-
10 and
is somebody-
20,
Is there a
whatever.
motion?
I'll make a motion to put a speed limit in of between 10 and 15 miles an hour in the Harbor Island Park.
I think it. Let's start.
Or say
What
not,
would they-
not more than.
Why-
No, I'm really, I'm not keen on 15.
You think it's too
I
fast?
think it's too fast.
I would
I
say
think
not
we-
more than 15.
We have to give the police.
No
officer
more
some
than
leeway.
15, okay.
That means
That
that's
way it's
your, that's your
15 or
starting
under.
point for
Right.
people around here.
You want to take a show of hands, who's? okay
Yeah,
with
sure.
15?
Yeah, he wants 15.
As opposed to 10 to 15.
Maximum of
I think
15.
it's too fast.
You think 15 is too fast? You just
I-
said 15.
I-
I'm not,
I
no,
agree with
because I
10.
was just telling you what Jason said.
Oh,
I agree with 10.
10 to
You wanna-
15.
I-
We're gonna drive
I'm
the
not
police
talking
forward.
about those, so I-
Well, what-
I
what-
agree with 10.
You want to give the police department some leeway.
I asked for 10 to 15 and let the police department sort it out and give a recommendation.
Yeah, so
That's
maybe we
okay.
can modify that motion and,
Can we say between 10 and 15?
Yes.
uh,
I like
Pending police
between-
department recommendation?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you gonna try it again?
Sure. I make a motion to place a speed limit sign of between, a speed limit sign for 10 to 15 miles an hour in Harbor Island Park.
I think we have to, sorry to nitpick,
Yeah,
I think we have to
signage.
make a speed limit in Harbor Island Park, not a
Yes.
sign,
Mhm.
Right,
Sorry.
you know.
add,
it's just-
add a speed limit to the village code
Yeah.
for Harbor Island
Yeah,
Park.
This
that's
is a big
it.
one. I mean, you're going,
Okay.
this is, going. You're going on a history.
Yeah.
Very good.
Step in it.
I am making a motion to add a speed limit in the village code for, a speed limit for the village code of 10 to 15 miles an hour in Harbor Island Park.
That's,
Did I not get, I can't, I don't know what I'm saying.
10 or 15.
10 to
Either one
15.
or the other.
10
No,
between.
between
10
10 and 15.
Pending police department.
Recommendation.
Recommendation. Okay. Can we do that?
Okay.
All right, second,
The chief goes about it too.
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great job, everyone.
Nice
So
motion.
we are keeping
It's my job now to put this on the agenda.
Yes,
Note that
ma'am,
down.
it's all you.
Oh.
You're gonna be forever
Already taken
known as
minutes, right?
the trustee that set the
You're taking
speed limit.
minutes?
I got a ticket.
So you just gotta go back to.
I
this
got a
one.
ticket.
I-
All right, trustee.
It might be me, but.
Third time around.
I made that speed limit.
Yeah, I'm notorious.
All right.
Order of
Um, Right, number three, Stuart, the Lawn Terrace side, I abbreviated that one, Stuart, is that
So
an
there's
avenue?
there's two,
Okay,
there's two Stewart issues.
okay, what do you got?
So one is, which Mr. Conley brought up. When we approved the removing the parking restriction on Stewart for Augie when he was here.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so someone else complained that it was creating a dangerous,
Exactly.
that's number one. Number two, there's another. Someone else wrote in. Renee Malagrana. Did everybody see this?
Right.
There exists, I didn't understand this, and I was at her house this afternoon. He said, there exists a no parking sign on my property at 625 Stewart when approaching from Guion Drive. There was a sign when approaching from South Valley that was removed when the remediation was done by ExxonMobil, which needs to be replaced. So there's a no parking sign at her house. I'm not sure what she's talking about. I knocked on her door to have her explain. I don't know anybody who's there. I'm not sure what she's asking for. I wish she was here.
Is
Did
this the
everybody
no,
see this?
is this the when Steve Tripoletti?
Yeah.
Put the no parking? And he had his neighborhood association sign to put the no parking section right there?
Triple lady, that was on South Barry.
And good,
Wasn't
it's that in Goodyear.
But it was on South Barry it was the
Oh,
intersection of South Barry and Guion at a different location. She's at a different.
Okay, we're talking about
Stuart.
Stewart Ave between Southbury and
625
Go on,
Stewart
yeah,
Ave.
that's-
Guyan and Lawn Terrace.
And you could.
You go down South Barry.
I am, but,
Yeah.
Ryan, you wanna switch seats?
oh no, Ryan's got it. I've got every confidence in
No,
Ryan.
that's a good.
Really? Thank you. There's two sides of the story.
You got it on your phone, that's pretty good. You can do it on your phone. I guess you could.
Yeah. That's what the zooming is for.
Oh, yes. Remember, we had a drawing of this.
Yeah, you went to Great Lengths to.
We have I have a drawing of this in my.
Ion Run, also that way.
Now, when we restored
This
parking
is no parking.
in January
It's off South Barry.
Whatever.
It's the other island. They don't-
We restored
they
it to
actually
the-
can-
You guys remember this one?
to one side of the street that wasn't where it was before.
And rescinded, right? Rescinded no parking.
We rescinded no parking, but in the process, we switched sides. I think my understanding was that for 2000, before that Exxon thing, when I was still a toddler. Kidding. Parking was on one side of the street, and then in discussion here, when we restored parking to one side of the street, it was the other side, and I wonder whether that has anything to do with the issue that is happening.
I'm not sure. Did everybody read the letter from the gentleman?
What's the date of the?
Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about 625 Stewart, or are we talking about the rescinding of the parking?
It's the same thing.
Frank,
No,
was
it's
that
not.
Frank, Colantonio?
You know, maybe it is. Okay.
That was
it's
his
the same
restored
block.
parking, Frank Colantonio.
Yeah, we restored parking and now we have a letter from someone saying someone's parking here. So it's working as we intended, but
Robert Alpena.
it's having consequences.
Robert, yeah.
Robert Alpena.
So I have an issue with, did everybody read Mr. Alfano's letter?
I did, but if I could glance at it again, if someone has. Thank you.
So that's it. That is, we're talking about a slow speed street. That's, we shouldn't be going more than 15 miles an hour on that street. Even whether the signs are
Well, the problem is it's 25 miles an hour.
not. Yeah, but 25 is too fast there.
Absolutely.
So what he's saying is that he had to, or his wife had to jam the brakes and stop suddenly. I'm suggesting he may be just driving too fast.
Right.
And that it's
Possibility.
not necessarily a problem because it was explained. The reason we accommodated and restored the parking there is there was a genuine need for it. I'm suggesting this gentleman may simply be going too fast on that residential street.
Can I just build on
Creating
that
a
thought?
problem on himself.
Can I build on that? The whole reason why parking was removed in 2000 was because of that gas bill, right? The
There is-
remediation.
And they
So,
were staging there.
so for 22 years, there was no parking.
Mhm.
So of course, restoring some parking there, people are gonna have to get used to it.
Right.
I mean, there was parking previously. So I mean, there was from 1980 to 2000, there was parking.
So maybe these people.
Yeah, I'm
don't live
looking
there,
with
so
this
that's-
off.
The only thing is that it's now on the other side of the street. And I wonder whether that affects visibility at all.
And I thought when we talked about this, you know, because our minutes lack the detail that I believe that they need.
No,
Great job, by the way.
I followed instructions.
Yeah, but I think the details are in, you know, in this binder, and you know, whoever becomes the next chair, I'm gonna give them this binder, because there's no reason for me to keep this stuff. But I think what we need to do is realize that this was a long time coming, where there was parking, we voted on it. We had our liaison to the board, not just the trustee, but we had Dan Sarnoff involved in this. I mean, yeah, I think that people are concerned about it now, but I think people are oftentimes concerned when a change happens.
We had another resident here too.
Yeah,
And there were
there's
several
Carmela Fusco, we had Frank, Colin, Antonio that was here. I mean, I'm just looking at.
The
my
whole
own
family was
notes.
here, yeah, because they needed a spot.
They needed
for
a
the home-
spot.
For the home health care nurse.
Well, and Robert asked them to call him and they didn't. So
Okay, so, but there was a second part of this, right, Robert? You had part one and part two on Stewart?
Well,
Are they all?
Dave
are they-
made
it's a
corrected
different
me.
location
Yeah, so
on Stewart. Stewart and
Ms.
Goujon.
Melograno cited a specific address at her house. Dave suggests maybe it's the same problem.
It's this little half block stretch of Stewart.
Yeah. So that's why it's nice if these people are here, they can clarify if it's not.
Right, and it makes me think like when we do something like restore parking after 23 years of
Right.
accidental no parking.
Well,
Do we have any responsibility to tell the other people on the street? I think we assumed like the whole street was here because it felt like the whole street was here.
But it wasn't, it was just one family. I have to say something going back to Mr. Alfano's email. It does say this happens to be extremely dangerous because you now have made the street a two-way, one-lane street. So when you have the car parked and two cars are coming, you can't squeeze, you have to stop.
Mm.
So again, they've done a lot of streets in America, but that's to the point.
I understand that point.
Yeah, but that's
So he had
not a
a point.
unique situation. It's just a big change to.
But I understand that.
But if you drive down any of the streets in Rhinebeck, they're all like that.
Well, I live in Stanley Avenue, you can't. There's parking. on
All
both
around
sides.
Florence.
Two cars
Park
come,
is
you have
like
to
that.
go.
It's just everywhere because there's no parking.
Right.
Ben Fenner's been dealing with that for
The
years.
option, I mean,
No,
there wasn't,
Sorry. I'm not
I
gonna-
think things have changed over time. One, because more people are driving, more people have access to cars. That's the reason why, so that's one of the reasons why we don't have parking in this community. It's one of the reasons why there's more like speeding or more traffic issues. It's just the amount of people who, how many families, how many households have cars, and how many people are driving on a daily basis. It's just times have changed.
Mhm.
And our communities are not built for that
No, we can't.
at all.
That's where it's. I
So
guess-
it's like, this is gonna be an ongoing problem. Not just the parking, but everything is gonna be an ongoing problem because this is just the way of the world. The community, the world, it just was not set up for so many people
Our
to be
streets
dealing with
weren't
all
built.
these things.
Is
Our
the,
streets weren't
is
built
the
to handle it.
street straight where she's talking about, or does it
Right.
curve? Like I could see if
At
it's
a curve.
if it's a blind curve and then
She's
you
got what-
can't
what's her
see
address?
the
We
car
don't have her
coming, and
address?
say it's
Six
different.
25.
Maybe we could
She's
send
at
her,
a corner, it's a, she's at a curve.
maybe we could send her an email and ask her to come and speak with us in the next meeting.
Who?
That's-
Maybe we
that's-
could send her
that's
a response and invite her to the next meeting.
Right there, right there.
This one,
That's, okay, that's her house,
Is that the sign?
and that's the part, right, you see that's it, that's the
But
no
there's a
parking
stop
sign.
sign there. That makes no sense. to me.
this is her house.
We'll go back to where you were.
This
with The bigger picture. I think that's. Yeah,
This is
that's it.
620.
Yeah, that's the no parking sign, if you see it to the right.
Yeah,
Right there. I think she's talking about that sign,
There's another sign right there.
but
That's going in the other street.
if there's, nobody was parking there. I don't-
Where's Dan and Needham?
Coming from budget meetings.
Now, my memory is that we allowed parking up there on the.
Right here.
Yeah. If someone can remind me what direction. that
I think you were right, because that's where I was at.
Yeah,
is
I
for
made
the
the motion. that was
Parallel
right.
lines to be placed so that nobody would encroach and over park.
I mean, neither solution is perfect. Having parking there is not perfect and not
Where was
having
the
parking there is
parking?
not perfect.
You weren't allowed.
And I thought we staggered it.
Are we talking about?
I don't know, there's not a lot of places to park.
No.
Most of the
The
driveways on the
house,
street.
the house, the
with
White
the
House,
dumpster?
Yeah, look at this.
across the street.
There's really no.
Park right here. But then you had this kind of,
But that's not where the no,
But that's not even what she's talking about, like that. Big bush is blocking
Site
the
distance.
site, but
but we don't know whether that's still there, that's.
It's probably bigger now.
this is from
Years ago.
18.
It was there as of yesterday.
Okay. I mean, it's a small street. So I think if, does somebody want to reach out to, I mean, I believe that this was brought forward after 20 years of no parking. People were requesting that they needed additional parking and we added parking back. The only reason why that parking was ever removed was because there was remediation going on. It wasn't removed because it was dangerous. It wasn't removed because it was a hazard or a safety reason. It was removed because there was environmental action.
It was a correction of an oversight. It was never removed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
No,
that
but-
change is causing a reaction, which we all understand. Right? I mean, people haven't had it for 20 years and all of a sudden there's parking there and it feels new. So we understand that, but if we want to talk about it, we can, but I think that we considered it. We added parking at the request of people that live on the block because they need parking. And after 20 years of not having parking, they said enough already.
Maybe just a letter to the residents there that this was just a correction of a sign that
Pre-existing?
was never supposed to have been permanent.
It was
That's
just
a
this
good
one,
idea.
it was just this one
We
person.
can send it
that
over to the one
complained.
person.
Yeah,
It's not as
But
if
to
the
give her
entire
the
street is
response that
complaining,
was,
just
that
this
is
one
necessary
person.
and the explanation
A nice,
would,
yes.
would
But I
put it
would,
to
I would send it
rest.
to all the residents on that.
Yeah,
Parking.
yeah, right, yes.
who can do that? Does that come from
That's
me or?
fair.
Okay.
We're gonna find everyone's address and send them out. and-
Well, that would,
No.
Sally would provide that.
The tax
maybe,
law- the tax law
maybe the
has
village
that.
can do that. but I don't think
One
that's
letter.
Well, she could ask, he could formulate the letter,
Right.
forward it to Sally.
This map. Parking,
Right.
this is the original memo.
Yeah, it was,
So it's the archive. It's not right. It's not
Well,
Robert's.
you could include that memo, you could ask Sally to include that memo of the rescind and the reason why the parking was pulled back for that time being, and it was an oversight and it's now been reinstituted.
So
My-
I'll communicate this to Sally, that there needs to be a notification given to these residents and that we update them as to. Is that a slippery slope for us to be able to?
I think you're opening up a can of worms by sending it to every resident on the block.
I think in
More
this case,
residents
we,
come
yeah,
back.
I think in this case, we
they'll
just
say-
need to respond to.
Okay.
People
I
come
mean,
back.
I like your transparency and I like where you're going. with that. I do like that, because we're gonna go knock on every door and bring a butt cake.
You guys knocking, you don't ask us to knock.
Yeah, exactly.
Robert's
that that's
Robert's
new.
been knocking on all the doors already.
Okay,
I
so,
heard that that's the new sidekick.
I'm just going to, I'm going to just respond.
I think
and
it's a
say
good
that
idea.
Give it to the mic.
after 20 years, this was rescinded. We voted on to restore parking, and there's always been parking on that street prior to
I
that.
need to copy the memo. I don't know.
And I can scan it.
I would like to encourage people if, to come to our meetings. to-
Yeah, and if she wants to come and revisit it, fair enough. So Ryan emailing.
Sally?
Memo. I'm just gonna email and I'm not, who should I copy? Think I should copy Dan, Sally?
That's
Sal-
fine,
did
Dan,
Sally's
fine.
gonna rewrite it or something? Did you say, or?
No, I'm not
Well,
I'm not gonna make Sally work. I'm just gonna respond to
Okay.
the resident's email and simply explain what our thought process was. And our thought process was that this was brought to us by residents and we restored parking on that block after 20 years.
Well, it was brought to us, it was brought to the village as a temporary problem that's now resolved.
Correct.
Right, that's why it's, yeah.
You're restoring pre-existing parking after the action that was taken to remove it temporarily has been concluded.
The village is
That's legal
giving you
action.
something.
Yeah, we're giving parking.
Restoring the parking back that was there.
This is what this commission does.
We give
We
stuff.
create parking spaces. We create parking, let the minutes reflect. All right, next one is speed limit sign Osborne Avenue and Harrison Avenue. I'm not really clear on this email. I've read it a couple times.
You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, if you can.
Richard?
I'm confused.
I knocked on this door on Harrison.
Yeah,
I was there this morning. So
I'm gonna send you out with my dog.
but nobody
You're
answers.
covering his
No.
mileage.
They're avoiding me.
They're avoiding him?
So what they're asking for is that it was, and reason I'm not gonna, because what that person wrote is very confusing to me. What they want to do is there's a sign, a speed sign that they want to move further away from the school. Not in front of their house, and they were talking about parents dropping off kids, making U-turns, kids walking, that it was an unsafe location. But again, I'd like people to come here and really clarify what they really want and what the problems are. Sometimes it's really hard to discern what the real problem is and what they really want.
My interpretation was that people start to speed up when they see that 30 mile an hour.
That makes sense. That it's
So
too close to the
that,
school.
so Barbara Brown, no relation.
That makes sense.
Wants that 30 mile an hour thing pushed closer to Harrison, so people don't feel that sense that they can speed up near the school. Now, I don't know whether that actually makes sense or will solve the problem, because everything around Yanni Warren's a nightmare, just like it is around
Right.
every other
Could you-
school in
She's
America.
also talking about people making U-turns. Could you put a no U-turn sign there?
Is that
That's
enforcement?
a tight street. You really, I mean, it's obvious you can't make U-turns.
Oh.
We're talking about Harrison Avenue.
But by then you want.
Because
Okay.
you want,
very-
like, the.
When you're talking about
That's why
school
it's-
drop off, people will
There
break
is-
every traffic law in the world to drop their kids off at school.
Tripping a driveway or something.
Broken you there.
But if it's coming out of that street, then you can.
Can we get a street view of this?
It is a strange request.
I know the area. I sit there every morning and I still can't picture it.
Yeah, I know, I'm
I
having
think
a hard
David
time
is
trying
right.
to
I think
speak
David is right, though, that this 30
It
minute,
is hard to
30
turn
miles an
out
hour
of that
is
street.
too close to the school. It
I
should
just
be
don't- So Osborne is on the other side.
away.
So it's,
On the left side, if you're
yeah,
coming from
Osborne's on the
Harrison.
other side. It's not even on the side where all the cars are lining up.
Yeah,
No.
opposite side of the school.
Yeah,
No,
Her house is on Harrison
And Osborne on
So
the
she can't
corner.
get out of her
She's on
driveway.
the corner. She's on the corner.
Well, the complaint is that there's people speeding, someone's gonna get
So
hurt.
she wants to
If I got
post
a
the speed
driveway
limit sign, move
situation,
closer back toward West Street.
There's nobody even
Yes.
walking on that side of the street.
That would be the request.
Yes.
No, because the sidewalks on
But
the
there's
school side.
children getting out of cars.
They shouldn't be.
Not on that
That's,
side.
I mean, that, listen,
It's an
yeah,
elementary. school.
parenting
It's
is.
like a school bus, but it's open, kids.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's no school buses.
There's no, yeah.
Yeah, Ryan,
I'm saying like a
Ryan's
school-
question is looking at that, a sign pulled closer toward West Street, away from the school zone.
We're trying to find this.
So we gotta go
It's
the
the
other way.
it's the other way.
Flip it around, yep, flip around.
Sorry. this-
Now, Osborne will be on your
It's
right-hand
the
side.
Right side when you're going up. It's a road that comes out from like,
And it's up there.
It's
No.
past Laura Joy Circle?
Yeah, it's right past Laura's
Yeah.
side. Yep. Keep going.
And Osborne's on the right.
Yes,
Yeah.
now it's on the right because you're going toward Harrison.
Oh.
So that's Laura Joy.
Yep,
That's
there's
Osborne right
Osborne
there.
right there.
Here.
She wants to stop.
There's
at
that
the-
30 mile.
You see
I don't know
the,
what
you
you
see
want
the
there.
30 mile an
Oh,
hour?
I see that.
They want, everyone's stomping on it.
That's going the
Well-
other direction.
You know, it's going away from the school zone.
Yeah.
I mean, she, just as other people have, I think she's bringing a lot of her frustrations together into one.
15, yes.
village
Email.
wide speed limit.
Yeah, but we can't move us. I mean, my thought process is that's where the 30 mph begins.
So I'll tell
And
that,
that's where the
so
sign
that,
needs to be.
It's not what you say.
Psychological.
that is either a state or county road.
Yeah, it's
127 is county road.
It's county road.
County road.
County road.
County road,
We won't
127.
build
Yeah.
any signage. All right,
Don't talk a lot about it.
does anyone want to respond to our neighbor?
Do we tell her to go talk to the county?
It is a county road, 127 county road.
Talk to George Latimer.
Mhm.
Right?
I mean,
I mean.
what we're saying is
I
we
don't wanna-
we
Well,
can't help you
Not
because
you,
we
but-
don't control that road. If you want to pursue this further, reach out to, is there a county traffic?
Commissioner.
George Latimer was here at a meeting
Mhm.
offering to be helpful and
Well, I mean,
Well, it's wonderful. lady.
There's a,
you
there,
gotta
I'm sure
do the
there's.
commission,
Yeah.
I mean, I think directing someone to.
Okay, I volunteer to write back
I
to
would tell
Barbara
her it's
Brown
a county
Okay.
road.
Yeah.
It's
and
a county
to-
road, and
We have no jurisdiction over it.
Mhm.
to a county official of some sort.
Yeah. The county
So I guess
There's
legislature.
gotta be a county traffic commission
All right.
website that you can.
Um,
contact.
Right.
So moving to old business, 412, Barry was taken care of. I want to save the best for last, the prioritization of the spreadsheet. Was there any feedback on the complaint form? I know last meeting,
Forgot one of my things.
I'm happy with it. I think it's okay, and as people use it, I think we'll find out, that's the best way to find out if any changes, but I think it's fine the way it is. So the next step question is, according to village manager, when somebody sends an email to the traffic commission, they have an issue, somehow they're going to get notice that they need to fill out the incident form. They'll be able to do it on screen. That the Form A complete is going to go to Elena. She's going to look at it and make the decision whether it's something that can go directly to another village department, DPW or someone, or send it to us. That sounds like a good idea.
That's fine. And
I think what we need to know is when that will be implemented, because he took it, he said, I'll make it happen. But
it's
that
been a
would
little bit of
be,
time.
yeah, it would be for Leilani to follow up on that.
yeah, do you think that you could follow up on the complaint form? Because, and I know one of the times you were out and it was on the agenda, but then last time you were here and we talked about it. and-
Right, we agreed
We
upon
agreed.
that it was. it
The
was-
whole scenario that Robert
Right.
described and Barry thought it was a great idea and he was gonna make it happen. We just don't know when it will happen.
To be put on that website.
Yes.
So I spoke
Fine.
to Elena last week and told her that this was, and unfortunately, no one told her that this is something that should be done. So at some point, I'm sure she'll be
Well, our
involved in this in some way or other.
trustee can handle that. I'm sure nobody's ever said that before. Sorry.
That's great.
For the lame dad
But
joke.
if-
That
if-
joke in that house.
I just have one question about the complaint form. Do these things have to be handicapped accessible, if you're sight impaired?
That's where Jerry came in. He said he was gonna have IT look at it to figure out how it would become user accessible.
Oh, what about in Spanish?
It automatically, the, whatever is put on the website, however they do it, is, Google translates everything.
Bilingual.
Yeah, just, well, many different multi-language.
Multi-language.
But whatever's added to the website, you guys could try it yourselves, but I did it. It will be automatic, whatever form, it just gets automatically
Automatically.
transferred.
That's what we do at the school.
They're,
district, too.
through Google Translate. But I will resend to Jerry, say, to IT, is this user friendly for persons with disabilities? Or vision, whatever impaired, all of it. And then see how we can put it on the website.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
And I missed a couple things. I know one,
I just had one other thing. We had our Safe Routes to School meeting a couple of weeks ago. And again, it was brought up by the school to add a crosswalk on Palmer Avenue at Walters. So Dan was at our meeting and suggested that Safe Routes to School send an email to the county and the traffic commission send an email to the county so that it's two different organizations to try to get it started. It'll be a process, but like, I think he thought that that would help get it started.
do you have some language and a contact person that I can initiate?
I can, maybe I can, if everybody agrees, I can write a letter and I'll share it with you and then you can write something similar.
Just want to let everybody know, if you go to page
That's a good
42,
idea.
it's exactly what Tina said is part of the spreadsheet.
I love this sheet.
So,
My preferred sheet is-
is there
Preferred.
any opposition to me drafting a letter, asking for this?
I,
I think it's.
No, as long-
It's like 20 years ago, people were talking about this,
Yeah.
right?
No opposition, but we coordinated so that the letters are the same location.
Yeah, well, I think that we would send it to Dan and Dan would.
Yeah.
Some
Okay,
on.
so if you can send me over. your
Just
link.
like at Walters.
I didn't want to do it without.
Yeah, you gotta edit it, do that. And I don't have any.
It's gonna be a challenge.
It's remarkable that there is, remarkable that there is.
Yeah, I've seen it done.
What?
It's remarkable.
It has
that
been
no
done.
cost.
Well,
I mean, my
it's
kids
worse
have one
now.
car.
Ironically, on
because
Post
now
Road and
that's
Rye,
a mean,
front of CVS,
we're
just
never
before you get
Like,
to the
school.
Shell.
Yeah, they have those random.
My
They got
daughter's-
the signs that flash. And they do it
Really?
again over on Old Post Road and Post Road, right opposite the Rye High School.
What?
football field. These are in the middle of the road, and they actually put concrete islands in with the signs, and they get the flash.
I thought we.
What about the-
Or you want it?
Is that what you wanna do?
It's up to you.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it next time.
And it's difficult.
Next time.
Difficult thing, I
Okay.
understand.
No problem.
If you go back to 4800
Yeah, I will
Yes.
respond.
yes.
All right.
I'll let her
um,
know that it'll be on old business.
It's
I don't think
placement, it's not.
So, all right, so I wanna
Yes.
try to finish up on, you know, on time. I know we started a little bit late, but I really want to adhere to the 90 minutes. And, I want to try to frame this conversation a little bit and get everyone to get their perspective and see how we move forward. So there's been, I guess, some concern that, by posting the spreadsheet and the notes, and that the spreadsheet encompasses online exposes the village to, liability. And so I shared with most of you, about that statement. And, you know, wanted to have a conversation of how people thought about this. You know, what is perceived as a possible liability, we don't want to create liabilities for the village, obviously. We're an all volunteer board, but as an all volunteer board, we also want to stay organized, which there has been a significant lack of organization on many of our boards. And I think we are a board that is dealing with a lot of community issues that revolve around safety, that are, somebody said that they were grieving a lot, people are grieving a lot of their issues. These are sort of mixed bags of like frustration, that are always wrapped up in safety and danger and peril. And they're serious, right? So we're, by this committee's design, we're dealing with things that are expose the village potentially if we ignored it. So, but we also need to keep organized and considering these things in a thoughtful way and always disclose that we are not experts. You guys might be experts. You two might be experts in your particular fields, right? I'm an expert when it comes to things in policy. Richard brings his legal perspective, et cetera. We all have our lenses, right? But when it comes to traffic safety, none of us are traffic experts. And I think we all approach that in a very honest and transparent way. And part of us being honest and transparent was trying to over document everything that was happening and then reflect it back so we all stayed on track. And that is really the impetus of the spreadsheet. And we had talked about the spreadsheet for many, many months as a group, with many stakeholders across the community, whether they were community members, whether they're representatives of fire department, PD. We've had 2 trustees weigh in on this that are currently serving as trustees. We have had people that have weighed in on it that have worked for the village for many years and have significant expertise in this area. And this is the first time that we're hearing that there is an issue of liability, which does not discount that question, but I think it also makes me think what was in there that caused concern. And so I did spend a little bit of time seeing what was reflected in the spreadsheet and comparing it to what was on the website. So, for example, safe routes to schools, does that create liability for the village? Does the comp plan create liability for the village? Do any of our minutes create liability for the village? I don't think they do. I think they're discussion points. So why does this particular document differ from that? And it dawned on me that it differed in one significant way. And that is that we don't vote on it. So perhaps if we just vote on what's in the spreadsheet and memorialize it, then it can be reflected in the minutes when we think we want to include the spreadsheet in the minutes. And one of the ways that we did this to kind of winnow down this giant document was to, again, we voted on to do an exercise where we scored the top 25, right? We picked the top 25 things and we all went through an exercise as volunteer members of a board to score out and rank 1 to 5, 1 being low priority, 5 being the highest priority. And everybody voted on this. And then I averaged those to create a composite score to numerically rank. I mean, I don't know what could be more transparent and technocratic and honest than doing that, right? We're not cherry picking.
No.
We all weighed in on it. And you have different priorities than I have, and you have different priorities than we're all coming at it from our own angle. So we created a list of 25. There was a lot of agreement on it. And so I think at moving forward that we use the 25 items as old business that we ranked out as a key that we include in the minutes. And then Robert took one step further this week and took that list that we all ranked, that we said, this is our priority. And Robert said, guess what? A lot of these things are already done. But why would we know as a commission? What's the feedback mechanism, right? I mean, how would even Lilani know? Because there were things that happened that predate her service to the community. There are things that happened that probably predate Lou's service to the community, but there's not a feedback mechanism. So my communication, and Lilani was copied on all of this stuff, and I included you all. I've shared the correspondence with everyone, but because it wasn't shared with the entire board, I didn't message it out to everyone. But I've had discussions with most of you about this because I want this to be an inclusive process. We just need to come up with a way that doesn't expose us to unnecessary liability, doesn't expose the village to unnecessary liability, doesn't make anyone feel uncomfortable that we're exposed to any liability. But we also need to recognize that we're dealing with complex issues, with a lot of information. We need to be responsive to the community. I mean, that's why I got involved, because I want to be responsive. I think that's why all of us got involved. We want to respond. And the only way we can respond is if we stay organized. And I don't know any of us that are smart enough to keep in our heads 48 different pages of information. Now, well, Rocco might be able to do that.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you might be able to do that, but you got a memory thing. You got like a gift.
Yeah.
But you know, the deal is, we need a tool to stay organized, and I want this to be seen as a tool. We don't need to post it on the web. That's fine. If that makes us feel more exposed, but we need to be able to have a tool here that we can discuss. And so I'll stop there and turn it over to the group for discussion.
Now, quick question, did you get any more detail from the village manager about what?
No, I think the villages had probably higher priorities. I mean, we were not a 5 on their list this week.
No, there's some.
And I think there was, we were a 1.
Just to see, because.
Question. Sorry. I don't
Yes.
have much.
Keep going.
Isn't all of the stuff that's in the spreadsheet reflected in all of your minutes?
Yes, ma'am. They're actually, it's almost verbatim taken from the minutes, and most of the stuff is
So it's there
cribbed,
anyway.
if I can use that word. It's cribbed from other documents,
Can I
safe
expand
routes.
on that?
Yes.
So having been on the Chuck is my 3rd year and having seen monthly minutes and going to another meeting and having to refer back to what happened 2 months ago, 4 months ago, if you don't have those minutes of those meetings, there's no continual
Continue.
story.
Well,
That's not
No,
why I'm asking.
I understand, but I just want to say, so what this is a compendium of minutes going back at least 3 years during the time that I was here, and a continuing story of from the time the issue first comes up to what the issues are, to what the recommendations are, to what was done, what was not done. And it's a way to keep track of each of these. Right now, there's 115 traffic locations or traffic issues on here. And I realize that unless it's all in one place, there is no way, talking about memory, that any of us can
reference it.
can deal with this. I don't see how we can manage
And that might
to
be
do
why
our
there's
job
so
without
many
this.
And
Well,
we all, oh, sorry, you guys.
I agree with Robert, and I think we all agree that this is a tool that was much needed for organization. If you don't have checks and balances and the ability to follow through and follow up, we're spinning in circles. We have no accountability to the community. We have no reference to speak to the trustee liaison. It takes historically, not currently, it takes a long time for it to get, for our items to get to the work session. And when it gets to the work session and it goes to the board, it gets dissected from the board. And this is a tool to help at present day Leilani vie for why and the how come, when maybe other board members don't see it in the same light. And it helps us follow through to be able to answer questions to residents that are wondering how come they're not being recognized. It'll help us to break down, oh gee, there's 3 4 different parking spots in the same area. We really need to send out, Parks and Rec or, Buildings and Grounds to measure. It just should be ongoing old business. And it should be left as a check and balance. If they don't want it public, I could understand that. But the same verbiage is in our minutes and the same verbiage is in our video. So I don't understand where the liability is coming from, because it's not in just one place, it's in several.
Yeah, because we don't actually understand the liability concerns. It's hard to
Right.
know how to
Who
fix
was
them.
bringing up the liability, maybe
Jerry.
out of that conversation?
Yeah.
And he doesn't want this posted on.
No, so it's been taken off. There was a link.
Well, I don't think it was ever really taken off. I think the link expired. for
I know I took the link down. I controlled the link. So when he asked,
No, it was before that, because I remember the meeting, I kept saying that the link is not working. So even before this discussion really came about, the link wasn't working because it was an old link or something happened.
Okay.
So that's actually when it kind of started the conversation, but even prior to that, the link wasn't working. So the flood committee has like a similar type of list
Yeah.
that of accountability that they got going on, but it's nothing that's posted, but some things are posted in their notes, not everything, I don't know verbatim, but there are things that are posted in their notes that would just reflect whatever's in their spreadsheet. So it's not necessarily that this is not a list that you guys can have as a committee. Jerry felt that it was a liability for the village, which I kind of understand where he's coming from. And if we go back, I mean, the list is kind of heavy, right? There are things that Robert said that he went through and he saw that a lot of things were already taken care of. Now I'm just hearing, if I'm hearing it correctly, that there are still some things in this list that is listed because you have a reference, similar to the gentleman that was here. Let's say if the Mamaroneck Avenue situation was already taken care of, right? Then we can look back and say,
How we
oh, this
handled
is
that.
how you handled it,
And
right?
when we handled it. and when we settled
Exactly.
it.
So then that's what the list is for. So, but that needs to actually be, those type of things need to be stated in that list.
Point of reference. Yep.
Well, that's where we need a.
So
code
that you
says
need,
what
it need
date was
possibly needs to
closed.
be really like kind of combed through, and that's something that y'all could talk about amongst yourselves.
Mhm.
However, but putting it on the website, is it necessary right now? No. To have it for the group,
Yeah,
by all means.
but we do need to add when something was closed, when it went to resolution, when it went to the.
Yes,
board.
because
For
when
us,
people,
for here.
not even just for this group,
Yeah.
the people, because this is an ongoing, revolving type of committee.
Right.
So you guys may not be here in the long run. I'm not gonna be here in the long run. I know that. So,
Maybe here next week.
No, but then we need to vet it,
But
vet
it
it
needs-
as a
for
committee as well.
And I,
Because like the Old Way Plains Road in front of the church parking spot isn't on the scored sheet. And that never got closed that Patty Trufletti brought 6 months ago. So it somehow it fell off the original sheet to the scored sheet.
Hmm.
It's missing.
Wait. Hey, come in.
it feels like making it less accessible was a good first move, but it's still foilable. So it's
So
not,
what? Sorry.
someone can still.
Make it foil.
But
They can
everything
request
needs
it.
and nothing,
I think, Leilani, I think it should be internal because if you put this on the website, and we talked about putting a crosswalk in, so when this doesn't happen, and God forbid someone gets hurt or killed, boom, it's so
Okay.
simple. Whereas dealing with it, so I'm not sure why it should be on the-
Liability,
I'm not a
the car
lawyer.
hitting the kid without a crosswalk.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it just would give more.
You Need to be a
fodder.
lawyer. I mean, lawyers only know what,
So
makes sense,
if we
I
had
understand
more
it's-
understanding about what the village's issues are, we could fix this. Like,
I don't
if
see-
we're pulling the verbiage from minutes, then maybe we just need a link to those minutes, and then it's clear that we're not adding
like
information. to
footnote it.
this. Yeah, Robert.
I also, I'm sorry, go ahead,
sorry.
Robert, because you've been waiting, go ahead.
I want to repeat, if everybody heard what Ryan was saying, that all the information that's on here is already on the website. The website includes minutes starting from 2017 to now. All of the other issues, so if you go back to 2018, they're the same stuff we're talking about here because they were never addressed. And they were described as dangerous. They were described as hazardous. They were described as unsafe for kids walking. All of that verbiage of unsafe and danger and hazardous. The same issues that are thought of as liabilities that are in here have been on on our website for years. They're also described in detail in the comp plan. If you look at the walking assessments for Washingtonville, for Halsted, all of those are replete with hazardous dangers. So just to say that we have to be careful because this spreadsheet references dangers And by not addressing them, the village is liable. There are so much documentation replete with dangers and hazards that are there, have been there for years. I don't understand. I also want to address one other thing
Mhm.
that the village manager addressed, which is that the need for the traffic engineer to weigh in. I really hope that, I know it's a lot for you to go through, but I really hope that you go through this and just read the bolded stuff. Specifically, some of the things that it referenced to the traffic engineer. So I agree 100% that we should not be making recommendations for traffic calming devices or those things without the engineer who is the expert. I agree with that 100%. And that is what we've been asking for from day one. And so
To have an
I'm gonna
engineer.
repeat,
So-
repeat our request that the traffic engineer participate in our meetings in some capacity. Or, so
That's
I-
a budget issue, you
I
know
I
that.
understand. So you can't say it's a liability issue. And then on the other hand, say, well, we can't afford to do that.
Well,
That's something, that's, sorry, let me finish this. That's something that the Board of Trustees has to work out how much they want to spend. I understand that's a budget issue for them.
And
Um,
if you reiterate, Jerry had said, he was
Last month.
here, he
Last
was
month.
going to, he was
Allocate
going to
monies.
allocate
Yeah,
money
He
to
did
that.
say that.
And he was going to have, whether it be quarterly, every other month,
Mhm.
he had made mention,
Right?
yeah. He
Well,
had
then
made mention.
tomorrow,
Present the
we
minutes
talk
for-
about tomorrow's budget meeting, another one. We'll sit there and, I'll mention it because it's the best. And it's just something that was stated.
And this
Yeah.
way, that person, you know, that engineer can actually pick through our open items and whatever is not low hanging fruit that the traffic commission can handle, and that is their expertise they can handle.
Well, on the defense on the budget side, both Jerry and Dan reiterated that his billable hours are quite hefty. They're not cheap.
And he
And
said
I'm-
he would give us
and-
somebody at a lesser
Somebody else.
value.
Exactly. You try to get you an assistant in the office, which bills out a little bit less than our volunteer fees here.
Right.
And you guys also don't know what they go look at and what they don't. So
It never-
the communication.
Right,
That's
that's
another
back.
thing. So the spreadsheet includes references that Mr. Carmody was gonna do this, he was gonna do that.
But you guys
We
never know.
never get any feedback.
The
We
loop never gets
we never get
closed.
Any recommendations.
Well, I could see that this is one committee that the loop never gets closed.
Well, we wanna.
But we do have the
Wanna
highest
change
paid
that.
manager in the state,
Yes,
so why can't it get closed? He's getting paid to do it.
well, it's not just him.
Well,
The thing is that,
But he's not-
he's gonna say
He's
it's
not
us.
the
when someone-
engineer.
No, no, no,
though. You
it's
need the
not.
engineer,
Yeah.
right? That's why.
Say that again?
He's not the engineer, you need the engineer.
But he
You
said he's
do
gonna
need-
hire.
He,
the
Then we
budget.
do have we have a village
hired.
engineer, right? But then we have another person that we contract that for specific traffic things, you know? There are a lot of factors that are gonna come into this, they're coming into play for everything. Not just this committee, a whole bunch of other committees.
I think
And
that,
it's not,
But we're talking
Sorry,
about this
Lily.
committee, so.
no, go ahead.
Sorry. I think that we're heading, and probably something I've been preaching since like I can't remember, is that the amount of items that are on this list. And we have certain areas of residential parking that don't accommodate residential parking. We have a village now that has morphed into a parking and traffic situation. We really need to focus on the bigger picture instead of this piecemealing that we're doing and chasing our tail.
Yeah,
Like, it really needs to be really, really looked at comprehensively and handled, because, you know, we're not gonna have any more land, there's no more space, and we need to figure it out within the village
that's-
that we're in to make it safe and viable for our community to sustain.
And that is what the committee has been doing. And I'm a true believer in long-term. Where everything we're doing is short-term. Because you're only fixing something that for another thing to pop up. And now when I say you get about 5 emails possibly 3 emails a day, just from this one committee alone, about issues regarding traffic in this committee, you're piecemealing. You're temporarily handling a situation that's something out Stewart Avenue.
And we
That's
have,
gonna,
we
that's
have to
gonna-
handle it.
no, and we have,
cannot.
but we
Yeah.
have to, we do have to handle it, but you do have to think long-term. You have to, and I don't know if anybody in this room particularly is it's like, are we? I know I'm not, and I'll be the first one to say it, that I am not on, that's not my expertise.
Well, that's why we're moving, for us to move forward as a committee, we've been on this for a couple of years now. We need Matt Carmody's company, or the agreement that we're gonna have traffic engineers sit with us quarterly. for example. So Jerry said,
Can I read something that I wrote?
follow up with, no, we can follow up and get that. I think it should be in the minutes. No, it should be in the minutes somewhere that Jerry agreed to hire somebody. We're talking about for months. So
Right, and
that'll
like
help
Brian was
us and
saying,
get a big perspective, maybe some policies on how do we remove a part? Like remove for one person or all the people, and it was an eye opener today. I was thinking like, I was
Or
like, why should we
training,
remove a
training.
spot for Justin, not this other person? We don't have a consistent policy.
well, that's
We
what
need
we need,
direction.
we need,
So we can move forward and be,
we need a
In fact,
deeper
we're-
connection with somebody who can help us.
right.
And that our village in a whole needs to really take a look at residential parking and traffic. Not just in certain areas that are underserved or overparked, but in a whole, because this is only going to continue. We can continue to Band-Aid, but it's going to grow exponentially. Even farther than it is now.
And Jerry said early on that he wanted experts on assigned to committees. This goes back to prior to his even meeting with us. That this went back, 9
Last
months
fall,
ago,
yeah.
fall, right? And so this idea of having experts on committees, and then what this group did in the anticipation of expertise being brought into the group was to organize where we were as a committee and just say what people are thinking about. But look, I'm a student of history. History matters. We need to go back and look at what was talked about 3 years ago. And when you read some of these minutes from 3 years ago,
And it wasn't
guys,
addressed.
it sounds exactly like what
Right.
we're talking about last September.
Yeah.
Almost the same thing. And so while that's good and that's bad, right? It
Mhm.
means that we know what the problems are,
And I'm doing it.
but we need to focus on that, right? And so if we know that people have been talking about the same thing for 3 or 4 years and it's not getting, let's make that a priority. What's wrong with that, right? I mean, people have been concerned for a long time. So I say that we stick with the internal organization of this spreadsheet. We can print it out. We don't need to, or Lonnie, you agree with that? We don't need to post it online, but we can use it as an internal working document. You'll always have a copy. We'll always make sure Jerry has a copy and
Totally fine.
we can winnow it down. I asked Jerry in my email, I asked if we were gonna have somebody, an expert here with us today. Obviously, we didn't, but I'm hopeful for the next meeting.
I know that Jerry wasn't feeling well, that he wasn't able to make it. And I don't know about Dan. I know we got out of our budget meeting fairly late.
You got a lot of
And then
stuff
there's a
going on.
lot of stuff going on in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
village. I mean,
You can understand. I mean, when people didn't respond for over the holiday, and then I saw the news on Monday, I kind of knew why, everyone was a little busy for the little traffic. I got that.
and it's budget season.
Yeah, it's budget season. So what I would propose, what I'd like to motion is that we have a list of 25 rank ordered things that we see as priorities. I would like those to be reflected in the minutes for this meeting. We've discussed them. If we want to go through these and read them in, do you have the rank list of 25 in front of you by any chance? I don't know if I printed that out.
Yeah.
Right, emailed that to everybody.
This is what I did on a rank list.
Yeah, right. So I emailed that to everybody on Friday. I'm sorry, Thursday. So everyone should have ample opportunity to go through it. But this is the joint efforts of all of us going through and seeing, and I reviewed in the last meeting, I reviewed what the scores were. right? What the cut scores were. So, I mean, we've talked about this. I don't want us to throw out, good labor.
Can I make a recommendation?
Anybody else not having?
If you
Mark?
take this,
Let me have a copy.
if you take the rent list
Thank you.
and you refer to the updated spreadsheet and see the new information that's added to this. You may want to mark some comment on here so that when we meet next time, we can kind of reevaluate these things. I'm telling you, there's a whole bunch of these that we can close that are done.
What is MAS school kid safety issue?
I'm not sure what that is.
I think
That's-
that might not
that-
need
that-
to be.
that-
That was that lady,
Yeah.
that lady that was speaking about.
There's one that we can knock it off. Some of, some of these were just not,
Specific, they were.
yeah, that they weren't descriptive enough.
Yeah, and so just so you know, I mean, I had to winnow this down to make this into a doable spreadsheet. So the MAS.
But it's all-
safety
So for example,
is
the
all,
first
it's
three-
all mixed up on MAS.
The first one is the 5-point intersection. That's done. If you look at what I updated on here, you see that's done as far as I'm concerned.
That's not.
Next one is Rockland Avenue. Rockland Avenue, the study is gonna go forward.
Right, but the first one, there was a study, Dan forwarded me the study, because we discussed that at Safe Routes to School, and it's not done.
No,
There's a study
Oh,
done,
okay.
but nothing was implemented.
so that's
And-
open.
and-
So then
and
that's
you-
a note that should be.
Right, the study was, and I
Unless
didn't
it,
know. a
unless
study
it
was done
goes to
until October.
resolution and the parking is rescinded and something happens, it is not done. It is live.
A study was done, but nothing was implemented. Maybe
Yeah,
that
right.
would be the note.
That was the 5-way intersection one right
And
there.
So that's where I'm saying we
Rockland-
have to like go back through that, just the giving, for instance, the parking space across from St. Vito's.
Right.
That left us, it was supposed to go to the work session and it went into the abyss.
So the spreadsheet marked it as closed, but Patty discovered we never removed the parking space. We never did what we recommended. And we closed it out, but it was never done. And,
So it's live because it never was
Right.
implemented.
and so that's the
It never
value
was
of
even
this. If
discussed.
you can refer back to what was supposed to happen, when it was supposed to happen. And if it hasn't been done, then somebody has to.
So,
address it.
so
Ryan,
can we start with this? We're gonna go forward with this priority, because
I
then we
think
need to,
this,
then we need to add the status.
so I think this priority list is, I mean, I think this is what I would like to have in this meeting as sort of like our old business, right? These are the things that are our hot issues. We all think they're the hot issues. We can go ahead and, in the next meeting, say these have been accomplished.
But read the updated spreadsheet for each one of these,
And
and
make
get a
notes.
real
There
assessment
might
of
be
where
some things
things,
that are
where we are.
Do you guys want me to copy you whenever I correspond with Dan on things that
Sure.
are Safers to School but are on your list?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
know,
List,
I can
yeah.
just copy the traffic. thing. Because like I took pictures for him of the shopping center. We discussed that again.
So the
But
stop
I
sign.
still didn't send it to him because I'm,
So still waiting for stop sign.
well, it's not even the stop sign. It's more, it's just.
It's a
yeah,
mess.
Yeah.
Well,
So is some of these things on this list, the Safe versus Schools, on Safe versus Schools list that just happen to be on traffic? Even though
Well-
I understand they're all kind of one and the same thing, but is it?
Safers to School can't do anything other than come to the traffic.
They
Like,
can make a
I've been, I was
Got
just
it.
looking back at my notes that I've been sitting on Safers to School since 2013.
Mm,
And I started coming to these meetings last summer,
mm.
and more has gotten done coming to these meetings than have gotten
Wow.
done since 2013.
That's
But
amazing.
only here, because I'm not going to the town in Larch Button, because I don't care about.
We couldn't imagine, what the area were gonna be.
But I didn't know, like, I had no idea what the traffic commission did.
Well, we didn't know
And
either.
those are the innovations that I think we're trying to introduce here, not because we think that they have to be introduced.
And they won't add me as a liaison, so I don't get any of the emails. these
Well,
guys get.
I think that you can request that Leilani add Tina. as a-
Sally told me
Yeah,
that only the
yes.
mayor is allowed to do that.
So can't you just
Give
join our
thanks.
commission?
No offense,
That's so,
not one.
So last night, the Board of Trustees approved the Rockland Avenue study that Mr. Carmody had recommended. And a lot of that, I think, credit is to our committee. We're pushing that for the last 2 years. And Ryan, having a lot of familiarity with that location, was specifically pushing for that work to be done. So thank you, Ryan.
And I'll tell you that Safe Routes to School's been talking about that location probably for like at least 6 years. And nothing ever got accomplished besides from when you guys did this. Thank you.
That's good
Well,
news.
it's good that we're on the radar with the Board of Trustees and we're making things happen because I think we're a pretty great committee from every different part of this village, bringing voices to the table and getting the concerns out that need to be taken care of, that have been overlooked.
And for the Rockland, Dan told me that it's gonna be scheduled in May when the weather's
Hmm?
nicer. And it's gonna invite
What?
different groups to come into it.
All right, so, I think what I'd like to see is if we could get, I can try to update this with some comments. We will no longer upload the master spreadsheet. I think that's what Jerry wanted. Is that correct? I think we understand that that can expose us to liability, whatever that liability might be, but let's just assume that.
That's the liability.
That's a liability. And was there anything else in that discussion, Alani, that I kind of went through my.
You
notes?
good?
Yeah, we're keeping the spreadsheet. We're keeping the spreadsheet for our tool. We are going to include
Because
these.
it's a good spreadsheet, honestly.
Yeah,
It's a good
it's a good
spreadsheet. I'm
spreadsheet.
not-
We're gonna keep these as
That's
part of
not a-
as part of the minutes. We can go through and update these. This can guide our conversation.
That's
Robert will
not-
continue to take minutes. Do we need to vote to approve and accept the February 14th, 2023 minutes?
Can I just ask for one more question, just so that I'm clear? What I'm bringing to the board is I can't remember. I had it,
The implementation of the form.
the form.
The
Got it.
complaint form.
No, that's not what it was. The
And no,
form
the
was, I have to
speed
bring that to
limit-
Jerry.
The speed limit at the harbor.
Thank you, that's what I wrote.
And that, and the engineer.
No,
We want
For
the
the budget,
engineer
the
in here.
engineer for the budget.
yes, I did write that.
That's key.
And we don't need the, again, Jerry
Is
threw
this-
out some numbers and as taxpayers.
No, you got.
Uh,
Yeah. Don't make you do your job.
All right, is there a motion to accept the new
Cold all of a sudden.
Updated.
February 14th minutes?
I motion to accept the February 14th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
No, what about the March?
Since it wasn't on the agenda, right, we're gonna have to go through that next
We'll
month.
we'll get caught up.
What, the
That's
March
good.
ones?
The March one.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, so we'll wait and do Richard's next month. Motion, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, let's go home. Thank you so much, everyone. Great work.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck and safe. Good job.
Did you read?
Did I like it?
Yes.
I love it. And actually, it's.
Sure.
No, 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 but you know, that's you. And like I said, I need to remind, because tomorrow's budget meeting
Ryan,
is on.
we stopped the recording.
Oh,
Yep, I'm gonna make sure it's have an open volume.
And exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
$27 million.
So hold up. No, but I looked at you and I said, okay, that reminded me to say something.